Hello everyone, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Tuesday. Hope you're ready to watch some Yu-Gi-Oh! On a Tuesday. I hope we're all having a good Tuesday. I am having a fucking sleepy one. Holy moly, I feel sleepy as heck. Woo! But regardless, we will watch Yu-Gi-Oh! We're gonna watch the duel of the mind-controlled Joey versus the non-mind-controlled Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, I have good news for you, Ferret Lord. We're actually not going to skip the recap episode. We're going to watch the first minute of it. Because the first, minute and a half of it has one of my favorite things in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! So we can't skip that. We'll skip the rest of it, though. That's fine. It's fine. Are ready to watch? Ready to watch some Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's go. Let's go, baby. So this is the recap episode. They just called it Bonds. See, for the recap episode, that's all we're missing out on by skipping the recap episode. The rest of this is just a bunch of bullshit. It's just a bunch of bullshit. Look at that. It's just all the shit we've already seen before. Wait, hold up. There's like a little thing here at the end. Okay, we finally found Domino Pier. Cool. That saved you a lot of time. All right. There are some... You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Beals, because actually the origin of the word brainwashing comes from China. The brainwashing was actually like an idea of cleaning out like clutter in your mind. And that's where we get the term from, because it comes from like the idea that Chinese communists were brainwashing. It's a complete total mistranslation of that. It's really fucking interesting. Like the Chinese communists were being like, yeah, we're doing some brainwashing to like, you know, clean out the bad thoughts in Chinese society. And then everyone in America was like, they're brainwashing people, as in mind controlling them. Face on Red Eyes Black Dragon is not nearly as funny as Face on Blue Eyes. Wait a minute, it was his turn the entire time, right? He already did the fight. Like, countdown to despair. All right, we're gonna take a quick little ad break, and we'll be back for the second two episodes, the second half of this duel. See you in a second, everyone. All right, we're back. Let's get that next episode going. Episode 77, Fair Play, Fair Duel. Do you think that when they described who they had to go pick up, I was like, oh yeah, I know that kid. He's the one with the hair. They were just like, yeah, he's got pointy hair. And she's like, oh, Honda. Okay, yeah. I've never seen anyone like use an extra normal summon for anything, you know. All right, we're gonna take a quick little ad break and then we're gonna go watch some YouTube. Everyone loves YouTube. I know people ran in Fiendsmith for a bit, but that was like not the ideal. Yeah, like it's like there was so much better cards literally on the horizon when that card was being used, and it was barely used at all. I got into arguments with people about this. It was not a good card for that deck. There's a new Zork out. That's true, but it's not particularly good. It's like fine. Yeah, it's manga Zork too, but it is also still a Bakura card. It's just also not a particularly good card. It only searches like level 8 fiends or something like that. Or no, does it search? No, it's yeah, level 8 fiends. If it searches level 8 monsters, you could search Habakiri, and then it'd be a good card. But yeah, okay, we're gonna move on to YouTube. See you in a second, everyone. Ad break time. Have fun watching ads.
Warning, Godzilla vs. the Thing, a shattering motion picture not for the weak of heart. Here in all its astounding realism is a soul-shocking experience. How much terror can you stand? What was this thing of unbelievable and unequaled terror that challenged Godzilla to a battle of unhuman strength versus supernatural evil? Godzilla vs. the Thing. See the war of the giants. See the birth of the world's most terrifying monster. See armies of the world destroyed by the Thing. The producers of Godzilla vs. the Thing issue warning to those who cannot take its full horror. To you with guts, you must see Godzilla vs. the Thing from the beginning in color scope from American International.
Welcome to the React scene. What's that noise? You know I can't hear that shit. It was part of the BRB playlist, I assume. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe to Batchy's Library and Empire Ian, the YouTube channels that I run that are Yu-Gi-Oh relevant. So what we're going to do today, I've got a video from APS. You know, got a video from APS. I also wanted to do this real quick. So I just found this randomly in my recommendations. It's for the OCG Japan Championship. It's the new Toon deck versus the new Toon deck. It's a mirror match because at semifinals because that deck is fucking insane there. But that's not really what I didn't really want to watch this. It seems like a miserable thing to watch. Instead, what I wanted to do is just show you this fucking layout. This layout's fucking awesome. Look. It's got an indication of whose turn it is. It's got the face cam there with the name. Got the highlights of the cards, of course, like ours has, but it just looks so much nicer in every conceivable way. Look at this, it's got a little curl there. There's just a little bit of set design there. Turn swap. It's got time, showing you how much time's left in the round. They play music.
攻撃力も輝いてるかなと。
そうですね。トゥーン界最強ですね。
はい、新規の3種類のトゥーン系モンスターの中で一番攻撃力高い。
This upload actually does have subtitles.
バトルフェーズに一度除外すれば攻撃を2回通せると。
Yeah, I just wanted to show this off because, like, man, it's annoying that we don't get this kind of quality in ours. The Konami streams in America are so bad in comparison. Let's go check those out real quick. Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card. Like, you go to the live here. Let's just check out day 3 at Minneapolis. Like, look at that. How do I get rid of this? Apparently I can't. It won't allow me to get rid of it. But like, look at how much negative space there is. That's just nothing. It just says it's time to duel. Great. Awesome. It's got some of the same details, but it just looks worse and it's boring. Ah, man, I really like this in comparison. And there's actually you can more clearly see the cards. One, because there's better lighting, but two, because the screen is slightly larger for it. You see that compared to this? To be fair, this is because it's not zoomed in all the way. It looks a little smaller than it actually is. But like, it's still, there's more negative space here than there is here. It's a little frustrating. But anyways, that's all I want to do there. Let's just watch this APS video.
Alright, so in today's video, I wanted to share some of my new Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list opinions and maybe hot takes. So I know I've been making a lot of videos about the ban list recently. Some people have really liked them and some people probably haven't. But hopefully this will be the last one for a while. I've been playing so much paper, physical, like in-person Yu-Gi-Oh! In the last year. Just a lot of regionals, a lot of like random case tournaments and sneak peeks and YCS events, and that was the NAWCQ. And it has really informed and sort of enforced my opinions that I have on the ban list. Because for a long time, I sort of just like watched Yu-Gi-Oh! More from the periphery for the last few years. But after deciding to kind of really sink my teeth into it, it has definitely given me some different opinions. I've gotten to talk to and meet a lot of like different top players and just like random players and judges and everything. And so I've kind of, I guess, galvanized everything into these thoughts that I've got in this notebook that I'm.
Dude, he's got it written down in an actual notebook. I got a physical notebook recently. I haven't done anything with it. I should do that. I should start doing things with that. I'm just not a huge fan of writing with my hand.
Video, but
my handwriting's not good. Is part of the problem.
Wish list-ish, sort of. I don't know. All right. So the first thing that I really don't like in ban lists as of late, and I don't think this is like a super controversial one, is
And
I don't really
the way a pencil or pen holds in my hand really is quite uncomfortable to me.
like what I kind of
My
call
hand's too big, I guess. I don't know.
ban lists. By rotation ban lists, I mean, okay, a deck has been out for like 6 to maybe 9 months, and it is just time to rotate it out in a very cyclical way. So the reason I don't like this is because, I guess it's like a couple of different reasons. The main thing is, of course, if you invest in a deck, whether that's, literally investing money in it, or you trade for it or whatever, you invest a lot of time into a deck, it kind of sucks to see that deck just get like literally rotated out. Like, okay, it's hit its expiration date, time for Konami to hit everything. I think that it would be a lot better if decks could have a bit of a longer shelf life, and I also think that it can make.
So this is like the problem of a non-rotating TCG, is that if decks have a longer shelf life, people get so fucking tired of them and just clamor for the ban list until they actually get hit. I remember Snake Eyes?
Formats when strong decks, instead of being just rotated out, could instead be challenged by the presence of other strong decks.
So that's the other option, is that you power creep so heavy that like powerful decks get creeped out of the format by the power level suddenly increasing every set. And that's what they're doing. That seems like what they're trying to do with like Chaos Origin, stuff like that, is create more powerful decks every set to get you to buy a new product, right? But I just don't know if that's sustainable long term.
So a really good example of this is that the Justice Hunters format that kind of started around this time last year, I guess, with like K9 and Yummy and Draco Tail, was really fun. A lot of people really liked it, and it lasted for 6, 9-ish months, I guess you could say.
He almost said 6, 7, I'm sure.
But then they kind of just hit everything, and all 3 of those decks have been severely nerfed. And right around the time that happened, Cool Tune got like Rotary and all of its like other new strong support. And I kind of just feel like this format right now that we're in, where Cool Tune just took like 7 out of the 8 top spots at Nationals, and it's just sort of, people are calling it like a tier 0 deck. I think that Cool Tune is certainly strong, but I don't think it's like the world's strongest deck that Yu-Gi-Oh's.
It's not tier 0. It's got the problem that Kashtira had, where it's like a stupendously weak deck that does some unfair bullshit that just happens to hate out certain decks enough to where it's the top deck, and like everything else has been hit enough on the ban list, they're kind of in the periphery. It's literally a Kashtira situation in my mind.
Ever seen, and I think that it would have been really a lot more interesting to see Cool Tune have to actually contend with the presence of a full power or close to full power K9 and Draco Tail and Yummy, not because I think that it would like be necessarily good to have all these strong, annoying decks in the format, but more like I think that if you had those all in the game at once, Cool Tune would not be as dominant. Like, it kind of feels like they just sort of set the runway for Cool Tune to do well. And this isn't just like an isolated thing either. Yu-Gi-Oh! Over the years has always sort of had this thing where like, all right, enough time's passed, time to just shoo the top deck out of the picture. And like, they'll usually start by like doing a couple slaps in the wrist, and then they'll do like the full thing. That's probably what's about to happen to Cool Tune right now. And I don't like it.
We can only hope.
I think that it would be really cool.
I hope they
when a deck is doing well, you introduce strong competition to it, as opposed to just sort of like clear the way and then hit it when it's done, because that's what happened to K9 and all of that stuff. But that's also what happened to like Ryziel and Malice. And to be fair, I'm not like a huge fan of Ryziel and Malice. I definitely think there's like a limit to how strong maybe decks should be able to be. Like,
I think Ryziel was mostly fine. Malice was annoying, but Malice was annoying because all the other Cyber's crap. Please stop making decks that could just combo into all the other Cyber's crap. I'm tired of it.
Like, Malice is like super dominant, and so there's obviously like a point that has to be reached where a deck needs to get nerfed. So I'm not saying that like they shouldn't be hitting Cool Tune at all, or like they shouldn't have hit these other decks, but more like it's more interesting to see formats where decks can just sort of dynamically compete and push each other stronger and develop counterplay. And like that way you get a diverse format, and also one where you don't just feel like it's all about, the one threat. A continuation of that too is that I'm not really a big fan of ban lists hits that like hit decks consistency as opposed to actually changing.
What do I always say? He's speaking my language right now.
what the deck can or can't do. So what I mean by that is, if you've been playing Master Duel, you've probably heard this sort of consistency ban list accusations, where basically like Master Duel used to, not as much anymore, but used to do this thing where it's like, okay, a deck is really strong, so we're gonna hit some.
When was the last time there was a Master Duel ban, like a Master Duel ban list that felt like it actually did anything? I feel like I haven't seen a Master Duel ban list that feels like it actually did anything in a while. So I feel like the only reason there's not consistency hits in Master Duel is because they don't do hits anymore. I know they're probably doing hits. I'm not super keyed in. I haven't played it in a year, but like, it also just feels like I haven't seen many impactful hits coming out of it anymore.
Like 2 copies. Maybe one of them will get hit to like 1. And so what ends up happening with those sorts of hits,
they just hit Cool Tune.
The top deck will be a little bit less consistent, which I guess is like a good or meaningful nerf.
Cups of Yummy to 1. Okay. Okay. That was something.
It can still do all the same things that it could always do, just a little bit less consistently. So when you do lose to said top deck, it will look and feel the...
Cups of Yummy to 1 is a strange hit. That's a weird one.
The same exact way. It's just will kind of not happen as much. Now,
it's like, I guess, yeah, I guess.
A card from 3 to 1 can actually change literally like what a combo can do in certain cases. Like that happens a lot with Vanquish Soul when you move cards like Rosin to 1, for instance. But I think like generally speaking, I don't like looking at a ban list where the deck has just kind of been turned into Swiss cheese, where it's like, I remember with Ryzeal and Malice, for instance, they've just...
That's such a funny way to describe it. That's such a funny way to describe. The deck's been turned into Swiss cheese. There's just holes all over it.
Single starter card to like 1 or 2, and it's like, if you're a new player, I think the optics of that aren't really very good, because you're like, oh, I like the Malice deck, but it turns out one of their Link monsters is banned. Like 3 different starters of theirs are limited to 1. One of their other, like their field spells limited to 2. It's just sort of like, it's not.
I think that's why I can't really think, because like I'm not playing Master Duel, so I'm not actively engaged in these hits. So like I see all these little tiny hits. They do like death by 1,000 paper cuts on decks. So like they hit a bunch of supplemental cards on Cool Tune. Then they hit Rotary to 1, Mix and Rico to 2. These fucking Swiss cheese hits aren't impactful enough to make me realize they actually hit the deck. To make me remember in any way, shape, or form.
Swiss cheese. It's roadkill. There's nothing like left to say about it. It's not like a full deck that can be played. And this kind of also kind of, I guess, goes into like a card design thing where it's like, if Konami sort of knows that they're going to be hitting these, if they know they're gonna have to hit a deck really, really hard in order to like bring it to an appropriate power level, maybe don't make it so powerful out the gate. And
I mean, is he wrong though? This is a problem of Konami's playtesters, and I just don't think they have enough of a team for it, which is, you know, fucked up, because I think they have a better playtesting team than, like, Elestral. But, like, this is a problem with Konami, is that they just don't hire enough people.
I get it. I know why they do this. They gotta, like, sell the next pack. But it's just a little bit strange to me that, like, I look at K9, for instance. Again, I'm not a K9 fan. I don't really, like, have any opinion one way or another about the deck. But it's just strange.
They got the best Ninja Genesis player on the planet somewhere. You know who it is. It's Jerome.
Ace is at 1. Joe Cool's at 1. Like, what are we even doing at this point? Like, it just, there's not, did you just make this deck just to hit it and like be done with it? Why not just make all those cards a little bit weaker out of R&D so that we didn't have to end up in this situation? Because they just got hit and then like Cool Tune just replaces it. Like, I don't really, I don't.
It certainly does sell cards, though. You can't deny that.
Like that. We've seen that for many, many years in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I don't think it's anything that's going to really change. But it is something that I would like it if maybe Konami could even just slightly rein that in a little bit. It would be really nice. Okay, the next thing that I feel like the ban list should really be focusing on a lot more than it sort of does, but like I'd like to see even more.
I'm going to use Swiss cheese ban list like forever now.
Not,
I think
like a super new novel like opinion or anything. But basically, what happens with Floodgates and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that a lot of cards kind of just slip through the cracks, I feel. And I don't know, like I have hunches as to why Konami does this. So I'm talking about cards like Dimensional Fissure, like...
Oh. I'm actually talking about this in a video essay I've been writing recently, about the way that Konami's focus on play rate, particularly in Genesis format, means that they miss cards that are problems but don't see enough play for them to notice them.
Mistaken arrest. And, you know, this even gets into my whole thing about like the side deck as a concept, but I'll talk about that maybe in a more detail in a later video, although I've said why I don't like the side deck. But I don't think that like floodgates are really very fun for anybody. There's certainly, I think at the local level, there are a lot of people who are kind of on the more casual end, or maybe who don't like play as much, where they see floodgates as kind of a way to like counter the meta, right? Like I can run Dimensional Fissure, or maybe try to flip up a TC Boo or something, like, you know, use a Dimensional
TC Boo. That's an interesting way of saying it. I've always heard Teak Boo.
Barrier back when that was legal, or like maybe I can play like a Dimension Shifter and like stop a meta deck. And it can maybe sort of work, you can steal a game with it. But at the end of the day, I have played so many games where I just feel like I have simply stolen wins by playing a good or competent deck. Like I'm not playing like something super rogue, but just because, ooh, cool, sunset happening here. But because like I just sided in Dimensional Fissure, I just got a free win against people. Like I'm siding in Dimensional Fissure, I'm going first. It just doesn't really feel very fair. And the same thing has happened to me. And I think that those cards just create like these very uninteresting non-games that just aren't, like, I don't know. I don't think that they really have very much competitive integrity. And a continuation of that is that there are a lot of like cards that, like, I guess I mentioned like slipping through the cracks. Things like Naturia Rose Whip, that getting banned was like a good idea. There are plenty more cards like that.
There's so many cards.
I think that
like even within the cards that you can access, like with that fill a similar role, like Spell Canceller, right?
I think the Amorphage cards that have been popping up in the Power
Amorphage,
deck,
yeah.
Right, like Amorphage, like it's like Lechery and Sloth and all of that stuff, where it's just like your opponent can't use spells, or your opponent can't like summon at all, whatever, like all the
Now, granted, a lot of those did get hit on the Genesis ban list, and for some reason, Rose Whip didn't.
Those cards, I think, get them out proactively.
Pointless, I should say.
Don't wait for them to ruin a whole format. I remember the October 2025 list, the October list last year, where like they had to hit a bunch of this stuff. A bunch of barrier statues, Fossil Dyna, Artifact Mjolnir, Arch Nemesis, like a Protoss or whatever. All those cards.
Arch Nemesis Protoss, which they had already banned and then released from the list for some godforsaken reason.
That hand loop with the Evil Swarm thing. Like, hit that stuff very preemptively. Konami sometimes tends to like let these things sort of just ride and like ruin a format. Don't bother with that. There's
Don't do that.
Where, like, half
Stop doing that.
That way, I hate to say it, but like Naturia, Ice Barrier, Amorphage, like a lot of their cards are just sort of like, yeah, people just can't do anything. And they're just, the archetypes aren't really amazing, but they're just sort of like waiting to be abused, waiting for a deck to come out where it's like, oh, Cool Tune Q can just summon Rose Whip from the deck, or...
Yeah, that's the other thing, is like, how many Naturia fans are there just waiting for their opportunity to play Rose Whip, right? Like, I'm sorry, just play something else.
You know, just things like that, or some deck can use
Ice Barrier cards, like, oh yeah, if you ban Raiho, the Ice Barrier fans will be mad. Okay.
Like, summon back a Spell Canceller.
I think you could survive that.
The opponent out, and it's just kind of like, those cards are mostly old, and no one actually really plays those decks, really. So just
play
ban
Bamboo
cards,
Shoot.
like,
That's
the
true.
moment that you know that they're an issue. I fear for why things like even Cannon Soldier are like sometimes still allowed to exist, but whatever. Yeah, so that's the thing.
Whatever.
I think that, like, floodgates first and foremost are like my real hot button thing. I honestly would prefer more of those cards get banned than archetypes getting like sliced up and turned into roadkill. Like I said, with the archetypes, you know, once an archetype...
I prefer the Swiss
like,
cheese metaphor to the roadkill one.
You know, like over a year, I get it.
I don't know why
like,
he's landed on the
kind of
roadkill now.
People want to see something new, and you can start to like kind of slap it on the wrist. But I'd really rather players get to be the ones...
How could the original advocate for the mid-core player say this? Hey, the mid-core player doesn't have to play floodgates. They could play real Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead.
That's a thing. And also, the last like major... Well, I guess there's like maybe two or three more things. I'll try to go quick. The next thing is that I think the player going first does not need any more help. So in my last video about this, I talked about, you know, I think Called by the Grave and Cross-Eyed Designator could probably just afford to get banned. And I stand by that opinion. I know that there are people who maybe play what they consider to be like a rogue deck or a low tier deck, and they like Called by the Grave because it stops.
Oh, that's true, Tristan. I forgot about that.
One ash is all it takes to usually beat some tier 7 rogue deck. And so it's easy to get this kind of perspective that like Called by the Grave is a necessary thing and you need it to stop all the evil hand traps. The thing is though, is that when an actual top tier deck that is very consistent, has many extenders, when it has access to Called by the Grave, it will completely blow you out.
Okay, to be fair, a lot of those decks that are so consistent, they don't even play fucking Called by. Like, they don't need to play Called by.
And I think the more that you compete and see how like the win rates for going first in this game are obscenely high, I just think that like going first doesn't really need like any additional help. I think like going second, if anything, needs some buffs, and like I kind of want to make a separate video on like the whole state of like going second in Yu-Gi-Oh, because it's a thing. But yeah, so like cards like that I think could go. I still don't know exactly where I land on stuff like Ash Blossom and Droll and Lockbird yet. I know those are hot button issues, and I don't really know if I have like an answer for
You don't have an opinion about Droll and Lockbird?
myself, like as to what I think of them. Like right now, I don't think that they are so game warpingly bad, but like I see how for the
Droll?
person going first, they are still just powerful tools that they can use to lock the opponent out. So it's given me at least an increased appreciation
Droll?
for Little Charmies, because they're made pretty much entirely in the service of the person who goes second. But again, I will talk more about all the going second stuff, I think, in another video. I just wanted to...
That's like, it's kind of true in regards to the Mole Charmies, but what I hate about the Mole Charmies is that you have to draw into them, right? If you have to draw into them, they don't really solve the problem, do they? I think the only way you can do a Mole Charmy thing is to make it a fundamental rule of the game.
mention that it's kind of been on my mind with these ban lists. Another thing that I've...
Because like now every deck just has a Mole Charmy plan. They just have a plan that they do, like any deck that's reasonably good has a Mole Charmy plan where they just go into when they get Mole Charmied, and otherwise they just go balls to the wall. It has not actually done much to stop people from building decks that go balls to the wall. It just means that when you droll them, they have droll as well. When you Mole Charmy them, they have a backup plan that still ends on something to interact with you. And then you get to essentially go first, but they have that one interaction, or two interaction pieces.
Kind of been thinking about the ban list too, and you can tell from my recent vids, is I think a lot of cards, like old Yu-Gi-Oh cards, can just come off the ban list. Like, I know that people have these traumas and these nightmares and like these things they've heard from when they first got into Yu-Gi-Oh about like why Mirage of Nightmare or...
Okay. We've had Mirage of Nightmare in Genesis format with Radiant Typhoon, right? It's not as much played as much anymore because Radiant Typhoon isn't played as much anymore. It's gotten too many points for people to really play it as much as they were before. It still sees a little bit of play. How's the best way to put this? Anyone in chat who's played Genesis format with Radiant Typhoon, have you had fun when Mirage of Nightmares enters the game? Has that been fun for you? Like, I think Mirage of Nightmares is one of those cards that's not good in most situations, but in the situations where it's good, it's too good. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's either dog shit awful or it's too good. There's no in between. I think Mirage of Nightmares is kind of in that position. And I really don't like it being around as an option. I like drawing Sheena with it, but Sided and Shirai going first.
Or, whatever is just like this unthinkable card, or like Sixth Sense is this like, it's going to be so powerful.
Okay, Sixth Sense is a trap card and therefore is not nearly as good. Like that one actually is legitimately, but like, if it does come up, is that a problem? Probably not. Milling 6 cards at most, or whatever. With Sixth Sense is like.
I understand, I really do, but I think that the people who feel that way need to like kind of get out and really like play more modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Because the thing with modern Yu-Gi-Oh is you quickly realize these decks are designed in such an efficient and like high-powered way that they would never.
But like, okay.
Never for a second consider running something like Premature Burial.
So like that's the thing. Okay, yeah, they wouldn't really. Premature Burial's fine. I think Premature Burial is actually perfectly fine. If you can manage to get a loop going with that, that sucks. But like Trunade isn't. I don't know. You could maybe get a loop going with that, but it's going to be super inconsistent. That one is like so unlikely to cause any bad times, it could probably be off the list, right? That's fine. But when it comes to cards that can only cause bad times, like Mirage of Nightmares or Metamorphosis, right? What is the fun things happening with Metamorphosis? What fun things are happening with Metamorphosis? I guess some people are doing some interesting things with it in Fairy Tail. I've seen some of that. Is that worth it when like it can also do heinous things? Although you could argue that you shouldn't be banning Metamorphosis, but all the heinous things it can go into, right? Instead of banning Metamorphosis, you ban Last Warrior from Another Planet and all the other cards like it, right? That'd be cool. I'll be down with that. Those cards just shouldn't exist. If you got rid of those, you would have a lot of problems gone, right? Premature Redos are delimited. Well, yeah, but that doesn't matter, right? The looping it is bringing it back to your hand. It's not looping multiple copies. But yeah, like I just don't buy this argument in a lot of cases. Some it's like on a case by case basis, really, because like Pot of Greed, I think Pot of Greed is legitimately not very good anymore. It's good, but it's like not extremely good. It's like a good card. Like I think 30 points is a reasonable place for it and in Genesis format. Would I want to see it in advanced format? I don't know. I don't because like most people wouldn't run it because they want to get more non-engine. But like if your opponent just has Pot of Greed in their deck, they just have a +1 that doesn't have any of the restrictions of Extrav or Prosperity, right? And that could be pretty frustrating. It's like that's the other thing. Is like if Pot of Greed is just legal, where does that leave Prosby and fucking Extrav? Are there any Genesis decks that run Pot of Greed? Yes, Monarch. Monarch is a pretty good deck still, and it runs Pot of Greed because it doesn't have very many points. So you can just spend like a bunch of points. It has more points now, so it's probably not running as many. And like you can also just run hand traps instead. In fact, you probably should. But there are some builds that were just running Pot of Greed because you like to get extra cards in Monarch.
Or Metamorphosis, or any of these old cards, because decks, like if they need a card in the grave, they'll get it in the grave. If they need to reborn a card, they'll revive it itself in Archetype with a quick play spell that has 2 other effects and a graveyard thing. It can be searched, and it's like,
yeah, like Monster Reborn does not need to be limited anymore. Like there is definitely cards that like you can remove from the list entirely for sure. But I think some of the ones he's mentioned here are like Metamorphosis. I just don't think should be in any form in a format that has those unfun fusion monsters still legal. I don't want to. I don't care if the Kashtira deck running Metamorphosis is bad. I don't want to have to play against it ever, right? I don't want to have to play against it at all, even if it's bad. It's just not fun. Even if I win the game, I didn't have fun playing it, right? So I just don't. I don't want to hear anything about Metamorphosis until Last Warrior is gone and all the other fucking bullshit that you can do with Metamorphosis. There's some cool cards you could get off of it. But until those other cards are hit, I don't want to fucking hear it. I don't think Mirage of Nightmares was a particularly fun card in Radiant Typhoon. It was fucking lame, and I didn't like it. That deck was already really, really powerful. The Mirage of Nightmares was like inconsistent, right? Not a good card, but when it was good, it was too good, and I just don't like that kind of design.
they don't need all this, like all these ban cards won't make a difference. So I know that like
they won't make a difference in the meta game, right? They won't change how the meta looks. It'll just make your average duel more miserable, right? It'll just make I guess, but not the average duel, but those outlier duels, right? I guess is a better way to put it. It'll just make it so that sometimes you just have an unfun game. Is that worth it to bring them off the list? Is that worth it? I don't think it is. I don't care how many cards are on the ban list, frankly. I've never been a person who's like, we have to remove every card we can off the ban list. I just don't care. I want cards that are unfun to be on the ban list.
That's something where you just have to like take my word for it. But I think that if you play more Yu-Gi-Oh, you will begin to realize these cards just, I don't think a lot of them will make much of a difference. I think that similar things can be said of stuff on the limited list. I've talked about all of that in my last few videos, so you can watch those for more information. But I just wanted
like
to...
if you go and watch the MBT ban list tournaments, right? Let me just, YouTube is being slow. MBT ban list. That's gonna give me reactions. Tournament. There we go. Like if you go and watch these, they quite often don't actually change the meta hardly at all. The finals here is like Pendulum Pile versus something else. I don't remember what this deck actually is. So this one, I think this one changes it because he released a bunch of cards. But if you like go to some of the older ones, here we go. Maybe this one. Like the only thing that changes that like
my wax wings on Rom. Trigger the effect of the long one.
Like it was Sword Soul versus Dragon Link in the end, right? So it didn't change. This was like when Sword Soul and Dragon Link were both pretty good 3 years ago, right? It didn't change very much in the grand scheme of the meta. But like let's look back at some of these decks, right? You look at these decks. Do you want to play against this deck? Do you want to play against this? I don't. Do you want to play against this? I don't. Ugh. This is pretty close to an actual legal deck, actually, now. It's just the Kaiser Coliseum. I think, honestly, Zoo without the Kaiser Coliseum is fine. I don't like those dimension shifters either, though, but we're getting rid of those slowly. That's just math mech. That's fine. That's just Sprite. That's fine. That's just Dragon Link. That's fine. Danger. Danger, danger, danger. Infernity. It's just like... Oh, shit. I didn't mean to do that.
3 lawn chairs.
It's just like... Yeah... The unleashing of a bunch of these cards wouldn't change the shape of the meta, but it would make the game actively less fun to play. That's all I'm saying.
Put that out there. And then my last thought on ban lists is that I think that we kind of, it's hard to say this exactly, but like, I think that we kind of could use fewer ban lists or like something like that. What I guess I mean is that I noticed that players have almost started to see the ban list as this like this holiday, right? Like it's this exciting thing. It's been 3 months. It's time for the next ban list. What are they going to do? I'm tired of seeing this deck. They need to hit it. And like I get where people are coming from. Like formats can get a little dull or a little boring, or you know maybe you're tired of seeing the strong thing. But I guess when I zoom out on that, I see it as like Konami's always going to have a strong, powerful new deck, and you will always eventually get tired of that deck. So I don't think that like hoping for a ban list to come really fast really it has much benefit. I think that ban lists should be like more in service of getting rid of like the October one from last year, where it's like getting rid of truly like, okay, these are just uninteractive, non-engine, degenerate little turn deciding things, little floodgates and whatever. That stuff, yeah, I think like if that's become an issue, like there's a sudden FTK that's popped up, quickly hit that. But I think that otherwise it is better to leave more power in the hands of the players to figure formats out. Give them time to figure out how to beat the top decks. Give them tools to defeat the top decks, but don't just like rotate literally like, you know, the revolving door of...
This is how you get Snake Eye formats. This is how you get Snake Eyes formats. What are you talking about? This is how you get Snake Eye format. Like, what do you...
New decks, because all that is just telling us we just have to like keep buying the new thing, keep buying the new thing. I think people wouldn't mind buying the new thing, but it should still feel as though the new thing has competition, right? Like, you know, it just goes back to my Cool Tune example. I think that Cool Tune would have been a really interesting, strong, high-tier deck, but in the presence of a full-powered...
I refuse to engage with the premise that Cool Tune can be interesting. I'm so sorry.
Draco Tail and a full-powered K9 and a full-powered Yummy. Do you really think Cool Tune is going to be like the, you know, indisputable best deck in the game? It'd probably just have to like kind of share the crown with a bunch of others, and that...
Well, you know, if your theory would hold true, I think Snake Eyes would still be the best deck. If you do it the way Paul wants it to be done, I think Snake Eyes is still the best deck, right? Oh wait, no, Tearlaments is still the best deck, right? Full power Tearlament with the Ishizu cards is still the best deck, right? I just like Yu-Gi-Oh decks are not all made equal, and like I guess like part of Paul's problem is that fact. I don't think Kashira Diablos' full zone lock would be able to survive Tearlaments, if I'm being honest. I think Tearlaments would wash it out of the park. Full power tier would. If they open D-Shifter, they do. Okay, well, you didn't include that part. I guess... I feel like... he's wishing for a world that can't exist. Like, I know I talk about the way the Yu-Gi-Oh company balances their cards a lot, but you have to acknowledge at a certain degree that it is really hard to balance. Look, I've been making a rivalry format for a while now. I've made 3 episodes. I've been making decks for it. We just did, it's not going to show it because it's on the VOD channel. I haven't made the edited version of it yet. So let's go over to Tomb of the Empyrean real quick, where all the VODs are. So I've done 3 of them now, right? We did, where the fuck is the first episode? God damn it. Where's the first episode? I'm just like scrolling past it over and over again, I'm sure. Here it is. Okay, so we did fucking the Chaos Ritual, Tearlaments, Materiactor, and Ninja. And while the Tearlaments, somehow the Tearlaments, Ninja, and Materiactor decks seemed fairly balanced against each other, needed a couple tweaks here and there, the Chaos Ritual stuff was vastly outpowering them, and I just didn't fucking realize it. And it's because of a weird interaction in that all of these decks here can't do anything if the monster that they're targeting with their effects bounces back to the hand and it gets replaced with a separate monster, right? So that was like, it was a complete washout for the Chaos Ritual deck. We go to Rivalry Format Episode 2. We've got the 3 Revolution boosters, all came out in the same pack, should theoretically be balanced against each other. They're not. I had to significantly tune down the Toon deck to make the Toon deck in line with the other 2 deck, the Witchcrafter and the Unchained deck. Unchained! Like, the Toon deck was way more powerful than the Unchained and the Toon deck, right? And even after that tuning, they still weren't perfectly balanced against each other. This most recent one, we had a Stuff Pile, a Dark Magician deck, and Paleozoic. And I thought I had managed to get something that was pretty well balanced, and the Paleo deck just got fucking hosed. I think Paleo is like a fairly relevant deck to this day. It usually paired with other stuff, but I thought it could be good. It wasn't. It wasn't. It really, really, really got hosed. I had to completely redesign the Paleo deck to make it viable for this format. And hopefully me and Nova will be testing that in a couple of weeks to really make sure it's in the right place. But like, balancing things is really hard, especially when you're dealing with a like I'm dealing. Granted, I don't have the staff that Konami does to test cards, but I'm dealing with a fairly limited format, right? You're only balancing the decks that I put into the format. Konami is trying to balance a game with fucking over 10,000, something like 15,000 cards, right? 15,000 cards. Genesis giving us Angel 07 practically banned shows players how little the advanced ban list has done in grand scheme of things. And that's true too. But like, it is hard to balance a card game like this. That's what I'm trying to say. It is hard to balance a card game like this. So you are always going to end up with cards that are unbalanced against each other. If you are never taking some decks out to pasture, those decks will never go out to pasture. Just naturally on their own. Unless you make power creep so fucking insane that eventually the game is completely unrecognizable. Like, that's the other option, is that you make power creep so powerful that you make the game unrecognizable. And granted, the game's pretty unrecognizable at this point anyways. It's just on a much slower time scale. It's like, but how fast do you want that to happen? How fast do you want the game to fundamentally change? That's what you got to ask yourself. Or you have to be willing to hit things on the ban list. Or, here's the other option, actually. There's actually a secret option that Yugists fucking hate. Rotation. You could just rotate out some old sets. That helps you lower your power creep back down to acceptable levels. Could do that. Will anyone ever accept that as an option? Probably not. But it is an option. And by the way, rotation, for those who aren't aware, like, you get to keep some cards and like reprint them into the format. Just because Magic the Gathering doesn't do it very often doesn't mean you can't do it. In Paul's framework, rotation ban lists were fine when they gave us Jush, but bad when they gave us Cool Tune. Exactly! Like, do you remember, like, there was a huge, I remember at the time, I wrote this as the fucking title. Let's just see ban list. I think it was one of the ban lists on the main channel. Time to rotate, everyone. It's B-Pro's turn on the Xbox. Like, it's just every single time it feels like we're getting a goddamn rotation ban list. I can't find the specific one. Maybe it was on the batch use. Who knows? But yeah, it just like it always feels bad. But you have to do some amount of rotation. Otherwise, you're just going to be playing the same cards forever. When a card that's released gets too strong. Like, if you want to have a format where things continuously get released, you either have to have rotation or you have to have a ban list. You can't have neither. I'd favor crucifixion list over rotation. Well, that's fine, but you can't have neither, right? It has to be one or the other. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in Snake Eyes format for forever, right? It's just like, are our memories so short we cannot remember Snake Eyes format?
That's okay. Like, I think that kind of makes for more diversity. It makes for your purchase going a little bit longer, like when you invest in a deck. And I don't know, it just gives decks a longer shelf life. I think it like all
when your purchase really went a long way is when you purchase Snake Eyes. That was fun, right? Everyone loves Snake Eyes format
on their own and not just sort of ask Konami for the magic medicine that will make everything better. Because
that entire year of Snake Eyes.
If you feel like your rogue deck isn't doing well and it always loses to Cool Tune or it always loses to whatever the good deck in the room is, the ban list isn't going to change that, right? Like that could be a skill.
Like, regardless, you are getting rotation. One way or another, you are being rotated. You're either being rotated through ban list or you're being rotated through actual set rotation. You will be rotated. Otherwise, a deck will come out that is so fundamentally powerful that it will dominate the format for forever until another fundamentally powerful deck is released. In which case, you get extreme power creep to a degree that is not acceptable.
Issue. That could be something where like you need to be playing better cards or improving your deck or like literally improving your play or whatever. And if none of those things work, then even then, Konami will just make another good, strong deck that will be modern and better than whatever thing that you were playing that is like older and lower tier. So the ban list isn't like this magic solution.
And even then, that would also be a form of rotation. If rotating it out by power creep is also rotation. You are being rotated, regardless.
I'm tired of seeing like the current archetype. I think that the ban list should really stand as more of a like an example of like failures in card design. Like
I just fundamentally disagree with this.
Failure. Like so that's where like kind of the floodgates, the spell canceller, the morphage things, those exploitative cards. That's kind of more what I think should be on the ban list as opposed to just archetypes. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts. I don't know, I'm always hesitant to call these like hot takes. I don't even think that these are like terribly controversial to people who like just compete and like play the game a lot, but they can certainly like ruffle some feathers depending. I'm more than happy to hear what people have to say about it though and talk about it with you all down below in the comments. Like I said, I will probably make another video about the whole going second dilemma because I think that's like another thing.
Okay, you're just rambling now. I want to see what the comments are saying. This is an interesting take. Genesis' way forward is a better ban list system. I kind of agree, but I kind of don't, because like I like the Genesis point system a lot better than the ban list. It's a lot more what do you call it? Flexible, which is really cool. But it is also a lot more complicated. If you're having an issue onboarding people into your card game, I don't think a Genesis points list is really helping with that. This is actually kind of an interesting point, too. Agree with the point about consistency hits, but looking at Cool Tune, I'm not sure how you even nerf the deck without killing it, since so much of their stuff is so powerful and consistent. I really wish they would be more mindful about the ceiling they put on decks, because it's looking like Tune's going to be another situation. This isn't very much to do other than try and go first and floodgate them. And would they even do that? What would they even do to make Tunes more acceptable? It was so hard to make Tunes balanced in rivalry format. These cards just do everything. They just do everything. It's tough. It's tough. And like I would struggle to make a Cool Tune deck. Just because some of the Cool Tune cards are pretty toxic too. But I would struggle to make a Cool Tune deck in rivalry format. Like, how do you even approach that, right? This is such a boo you. This is there's still no Closed Moon or Beatrice, which are failures of card design. Closed Moon, a failure in card design. What does Closed Moon do that's so bad? Be a light fiend? Like, this is why I don't think the failure of card design qualifier works, right? What does that mean? What does failure of card design actually mean? There's a reason why the best past formats are full of decks that were formerly top of their metas when fully unlimited pared down to reasonable levels. Okay, I thought this was going to be an insane take. It was actually a pretty good take. Yu-Gi-Oh seems to naturally power creep itself anyways. That's just not true. How could you even say that when we always have rotation ban lists? The only reason they naturally power creep themselves is because of the rotation ban list that rotate out the old decks. What are you talking about? Okay. I don't have anything else, though. Like, this is all I had for today. And is there like a... Does Danny have like a rivalry video? No, he had a reaction video. The React Gamer. By the way, did you know I've been uploading YouTube shorts? You can watch them. This one seems to be doing very badly. I didn't realize Tyler the Great Warrior would do so poorly. What the fuck? People hate Tyler the Great Warrior. That's fucked up. I didn't I didn't realize they would hate it so much. Oh, we could just watch Terror Mecha Godzilla. You want to just watch Terror Mecha Godzilla real quick? Bop. 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 There we go. We'll just watch the aquarium for a little bit. People in chat want to watch Godzilla movies. They would get my ass on that one for sure. They would absolutely get my ass on that one. What about Elsie and the Fantasticar as a Yu-Gi-Oh card? I did see that one. I don't know, Elsie's videos are like really long and he just says things I go, too, right? So I don't know. Wow, Kai. That's so forward of you. Puts fingers together. Okay, I'm tempted. Well, here's what we'll do.
So I know the title of this video is a bit weird, but trust me, there is a method to my madness, and I want to show today in this video why the problems presented by
the idea that it's like watching a movie with somebody
from Magic's newest commander set are actually very similar to some
We're
of the
gonna
problems
put LC
that
to
we see
1.25 times speed
materialize in the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame. And I think that there's actually even two ways to talk about it. I think the Fantastic card is very similar to a Yu-Gi-Oh card in terms of how it plays in game. And I also think that the philosophical approach and the release of the card has a similar kind of feel to how Yu-Gi-Oh releases tend to work as well.
That's interesting because, like, it is also a Universes Beyond card, something Konami does not do.
So I want to first give some context on Fantastic Car, talk about what's going on with this card. Ironically, this is like the second time that there's been drama around a Fantastic Car card in like the last year, which is kind of one of those, like, you know, if I had a nickel for every time something like this happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it is weird that it's happened twice. And for reference, Marvel Snap had its own Fantastic Car drama about a year ago at this point. That wasn't necessarily related so much to gameplay as it was related to questions around the monetization model of Marvel Snap. And I won't talk about it a ton here by any means, but it is kind of funny that it's happened twice. So what's going on with Fantastic Car? Fantastic Car is kind of running rampant in Legacy and Vintage. It is an incredibly powerful artifact. For those who are not aware, it's going to be on screen right now, but it's a 3 mana.
Flying, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have the Fantastic card become an artifact creature until the end of turn. What? Whenever you cast your 4th non-creature spell each turn, you may sacrifice the Fantastic card. If you do, create 4/4 colorless construct artifact creatures with tokens with flying and haste. Oh. Oh, so you sacrifice it to you tribute it to summon the Fantastic Four from your deck. I see.
Legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 4/4, and then it has the text flying. When you cast a non-creature spell, you may have the Fantastic card become an artifact creature until end of turn. Meaning
I'm glad that all the
include,
Fantastic
like,
Fours are
regular
4
vehicles
4s.
do, which is a bit strange, but obviously it was always going to be a vehicle. It's literally a car. And then it has the additional text, and this is the important one. When you cast your 4th non-creature spell each turn, you may sacrifice the Fantastic Car. If you do, create 4 4/4 colorless construct artifact tokens with
4/4.
flying and haste. This comes pretty close to just ending the game on its own, obviously, and that's a big part of why this card feels so oppressive. So what are the issues with the card? Because it is showing up in high
I love
play rates
Owloon in the background there.
both Legacy
Hey
and
Owloon, how
obviously
you doing?
Vintage. And those are the only competitive formats that it's legal. So obviously it could only be showing up there. I will say anecdotally, I think if it was playable in Modern, you would see a similar amount of angst about the card. But what are the issues with it? Issue number one with it is that it is a combo card that is really, really not all in any way. And so part of the problem, I think, with the Fantastic card that you're seeing realized by a lot of players is the fact that it does everything. You can, if you're in a matchup where going all in and trying to sacrifice it to make the 4/4/4 seems bad, you can always just kind of play one non-creature spell a turn and get in for 4 flying. And that is, in some matchups, going to be an effective enough game plan on its own that you can...
God, yeah, because it just sits on the field and then becomes a creature to attack and then becomes not a creature so you can't deal with it.
Win the game that way. Importantly,
right?
this also
Is that how
allows
that works?
these Fantastic card decks to play through hate pretty effectively if your opponent is able to put down a Deafening Silence or something of this ilk. If you just put Fantastic card in play and then animate it each turn and attack, that is going to kind of like naturally create this plan B that combo decks are often looking for, especially in Legacy. And it's done so in a way where your main combo card is also your main B plan, which is like pretty frustrating and quite compact. The other issue that you're seeing with Fantastic Car is that because it is a colorless card, it's an artifact, it is incredibly splashable. You see it in a variety of different decks that are approaching playing the card.
Just put it in whatever the fuck you want.
So obviously, Doomsday has been playing it, just this like kind of like combo deck that it has a bunch of fast mana that's looking to Doomsday, just also has Fantastic Car included in it as well, because again, like I mentioned, it's just this very effective B plan. And if you're a Doomsday pilot, if you go like turn 1, land, Dark Ritual, Fantastic Car, the odds that in 1 or 2 turns you're going to be able to trigger the car and, you know, make it a 4/4 and attack once, and then maybe play the other 4 spells on the next turn after you've done a little bit more setup to animate all 4 of the cars and win the game. That's a real plan. It's a very effective one. You're seeing it played in 8 cast decks, which are more like tempo strategies almost, are looking to build some kind of like big threat, like Kappa Cannoneer or something of that ilk, and win the game that way, and then back it up with like Force of Will and sometimes other disruption. And that deck can just include Fantastic Car as well, because it can just incidentally cast 4 spells on a turn pretty easily. It has a bunch of 0 mana artifacts and things like that to get to that effect. Additionally, you're seeing these kind of like car stompy lists, which are colorless stompy lists that are playing the Fantastic Car plus a bunch of lock pieces. And again, because these decks are falling back on these 0 mana artifacts, you are often able to actually animate the car and win the game with the car, despite the fact that your deck is really not a combo deck or even a tempo deck. Like, you're kind of like an aggressive strategy that can also splash this Fantastic Car effect. And so overall, I think that's the big thing, and the big area where you are feeling the most significant pain from people is the fact that this card fits in so many different strategies, and it feels as though the format has just become Fantastic Car the format. To get a better sense of just how present Fantastic Car has been, I just pulled up a couple of legacy challenges from the last week. So the legacy challenges, I think, are slightly better metagame indicators for legacy, simply because the stakes are a little bit higher, and unlike League
I
data,
love the price
where
on these
decks.
Legacy is a format of all time.
What people are trying to play, particularly when winning is the most important. And so there are 2 challenges really that are worth pointing out. This one was on the weekend, on last Sunday, and you can see, I think this is where a big part of the Fantastic Car angst came from. You can see in the top 4, 8 cast, this is a car deck, Demure Car, shockingly a car deck, this black deck, which is mono black car, basically playing a bunch of random like removal spells and discard spells, and then these 0 mana artifacts that I've been talking about over and over again, plus car
and the Fantastic Car.
And yeah, the top 4 of this deck, all card decks. The bottom 4 of this, or the bottom 8, the other 8 4.
Legacy too, because like Legacy is like feels like a format where the people playing it would really fucking hate how much Universes Beyond shit is coming in, right?
Are all not card decks, to be fair. And I think what's kind of interesting is that when you look at this challenge, it would be easy to be like, okay, yeah, 6 card decks in the top 16, or maybe more, actually. Sorry, this Saga Storm deck is also a fantastic card deck. So we have 6, 7, 8.
6, 7?
Card decks? How many card decks? 7 card decks? Yeah, we have 7 card decks in the top 8, which is, or in the top 16, which is, you know,
16.
Getting to the point of being disconcerting.
More
but
than
actually,
half.
if you look even just 3 days later at
no,
the challenge
almost
from Wednesday,
halfway,
and obviously
sorry.
who's playing on a Sunday versus who's playing on a Wednesday, maybe that's different. But if you look at this top 8 list, you'll notice you have to go all the way to 5th to find a car deck. And then this Doomsday deck, like I mentioned, is also playing the Fantastic Car here. But beyond that, you've got another car deck here. That's a third one. Is this Jewel deck playing the car? It's not. This is like another artifact combo deck that probably could play it but isn't. Oops All Spells, this isn't playing the car. So really there's only 3 of them in the top 16. And I do think that this is an interesting kind of situation where the reaction and the initial kind of angst around car has been really, really significant, despite the fact that, like, arguably the results don't necessarily present a situation of,
well, how much of that is because people just don't want to play the car, right? I like, this is like a question I have with like some heinous cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, but when it comes to Magic the Gathering and Universes Beyond specifically, how much of this is because people aren't playing it because it's not a good card, and how much of it is they're not playing it because it's fucking Fantastic Car? It's the goddamn Fantastic Car from Fantastic Four in my Magic the Gathering, right? That one, you really got to consider that when you're thinking about your data here, right?
Of Fantastic Car.
Oh, we should do a quick ad break. See you in a second for the finish of this video. Hello? There we go. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's finish this video.
Being this incredibly oppressive tool that nobody can beat and and that needs to be out of the format immediately. In fact, one of the interesting things I think that you can kind of point to with Fantasticar is the potential presence of other culprits for why this strategy feels so oppressive. Fantasticar is really only enabled by the fact that there are all of these 0 mana artifacts in the format. And like I kind of alluded to, literally all of the card decks are all falling back on some number of these 0 mana artifacts, obviously in different amounts depending on what type of card deck they are, but they're all looking to leverage the fact that there really are just like an astonishing number of playable 0 mana artifacts to be able to hit this 4 non-creature spell number quickly. And so overall, I think my take on the Fantasticar being oppressive is a little bit lower than maybe what other people would have it as. I don't think that it is.
What do you think of this Yu-Gi-Oh-ification of another TCG where new cards are upheaving eternal formats for Yu-Gi-Oh players as a Tuesday? But like, if Legacy was the main format of Magic the Gathering, it would have to be that way.
Necessarily something that needs to leave the format.
Or else people will just get fucking bored.
Calling for bans, but it is obviously frustrating. And I think that it is interesting that when we look at why it's frustrating, a lot of the reasons why people are annoyed with the card are really comparable to reasons why people get annoyed with new powerful Yu-Gi-Oh cards. When I kind of described the main pain points of Fantasticar, the splash ability, the fact that it is a 1-card combo that kind of does it all on its own. It's both a combo card and it's also your second plan. The fact that it's arguably too easy to enable, both
Haba Kirky.
because of the fact that all these 0 mana artifacts turn it on for free, and also just because the condition of play 4 non-creature spells is really not that hard to hit in a Legacy context. These are all sort of similar knocks that you can make on a card like Habakiri in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that this is point number 1 at which Fantasticar feels very, very much so like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Habakiri, for the Magic context players, is a card that was released a couple of years ago at this point that basically reads like a custom card. When you act...
It does. The thing about Habakiri is that a card like this really shouldn't have been printed. It is so fucking insane.
Activate Habakiri, you get to go get a monster, put it in play, tribute something.
Like, I talk about how you need to have power creep in an eternal format to like make things move, but like Habakiri was a step beyond.
And the long and the short of it, without explaining the whole Mitsurugi line, I actually have a video on my channel from very early days where I do that. If you are interested, I'll maybe put a card here. Yeah, so the whole Habakiri line from 1 card basically gets you an entire end board on its own from 1 card. And the frustration around that card.
The fucked up thing is it is like an entire end board that you can just have as part of, like, on top of another end board that you were doing that you managed to go into Habakiri from.
Was largely related to the fact that it was so splashable. You could put Mitsurugi in any deck, basically, and many of them were able to search out Habakiri in one way or another, but many weren't.
It's just so fucking searchable. It's so searchable. It does everything on its own.
Even. And we're just playing it because when you naturally drew one of the pieces that allowed you to go search it out, you would just get this massive reward for fairly low opportunity cost. And I think you are seeing a similar kind of thing happen with the Fantasticar. It is not a coincidence that Doomsday and 8-Cast and these Dimir card decks are all able to slot Car in. Really, of those decks that I just mentioned, only one of them is really specifically built around enabling Fantasticar, and it's the Dimir Fantasticar deck that really is like a true combo deck built around specifically enabling that strategy. It's playing cantrips and discard, and then rituals to put the car in play and trigger it as fast as possible. It also, incidentally, has a couple of like tempo elements and a B plan that almost makes it look like the existing blue-black tempo deck. Obviously very different. It's not really that. But that's really the only deck of those ones that I've talked about so far that
LC just is a mountain of hair.
Be a kind of functional deck if you removed Fantasticar from it.
Really long hair, really long beard.
Both
It's
8-Cast
crazy.
and Doomsday could take the 4 cards, 4 or 3 cards out of their decks and make almost no other changes and still have a highly functional deck. And I think that is the big kind of point at which I thought this feels very...
It looks like a dwarf. It's awesome.
Incredibly splashable, goes in a bunch of different decks, is its own kind of engine that immediately raises the ceiling on what your deck is able to do right away. almost by itself. And
He needs to get his beard as long as his hair
so
is, though.
I think that that's kind of a very interesting dichotomy that's existing. But it's not the only way in which this card feels Yu-Gi-Oh card-esque. One
You know, I'm
thing
realizing it doesn't help that he's also like so low in the screen. Like you get from here to here, right? So that also helps the dwarven appearance.
is a real issue with modern Yu-Gi-Oh card printing strategies is that a lot of the times they feel like they soft rotate or hard rotate the format. And I've talked about this a bunch on the channel before. There are a ton of examples you can find, particularly of non-engine cards doing this. Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Molcharmi Fulos are good, like obvious examples, but there are a ton of examples too, like Habakiri that got printed, or their most recent Justice Hunters format where those 3 archetypes got printed, and that functionally rotated the format, and it became
Well, it was the ban list that rotated the format.
became relatively untenable to play most things other than these engines because they were so powerful. And while in Legacy, you're not necessarily
Like the cards being powerful helped, certainly. You have to have powerful cards. It's the combination of the two, though. You have to print powerful cards, but those powerful cards might not have seen like the kind of play that they did if you didn't also rotate out Ryziel and Malice by way of ban list, right?
seeing this same kind of rotation to the point where nothing else is playable besides these card decks. You are definitely seeing a rotation in terms of the way that the combo decks in particular now look innately includes Fantasticar as this separate plan. Or maybe not even combo decks is the right word, but any of these decks that are playing a lot of zero mana art.
It's so funny that it's the Fantastic car too. I have to emphasize how funny it is that it's the fucking Fantastic Four's car that's causing these issues.
Facts or fast mana, they all of a sudden now just have some other outlet that they never had before. And these kind of soft rotations have happened in Legacy before. Modern Horizons 3 is definitely the biggest example of this, where cards like Cameo and Orcish Bowmasters came into the format and just like obviously fundamentally changed the way in which the format was played. And while
What's going on with the Fantastic Four card? It's not the cards. It is specifically the car. It is specifically the car. It's going to be easier if I just pull it up. Fantastic car. It was the first thing that comes up. Awesome. It's got flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can have the Fantastic card become an artifact creature until the end of turn. So if you can cast one spell, you get an artifact creature with flying that could just attack directly for 4. Whenever you cast your 4th non-creature spell each turn, you may sacrifice the Fantastic card. If you do, create 4/4/4 colorless construct artifact creature tokens with flying and haste. So if you cast 4, you get to sacrifice it to create the Fantastic Four, which are all 4/4, and attack directly with all 4. Which is heinous. It's absolutely heinous. It's also colorless. It's 3 mana total. It's colorless. It can fit into any fucking deck. Whoa. 3 rocks, you get a win con that has haste. It's... Whoa. Ugh. Gross. Where the fuck were we? There we were.
I think those
so it is
cards were
essentially
not necessarily
Habakiri
received quite
for
so
Magic the
negatively at the
Gathering.
time. You are now seeing, I think, a reasonable number of players calling for bans of cards like the One Ring, Bowmasters, Tameo. Obviously, Psychic Frog did get banned. Sorry, worth noting, MH3 and the Lord of the Rings, two different sets. They're not all from the same set. Another set too that kind of soft rotated the format was when the Initiative was initially introduced into Legacy. In particular, White Plume Adventurer was a card that just fundamentally changed the way that all of the aggressive white decks were structured. They all became structured around
Habakiri just does the whole Mitsurugi combo, which is a really powerful combo. There you go.
The Initiative. And obviously, White Plume Adventurer ultimately did get banned as well. And I think that there's an interesting discussion to be had here about the way in which the community expects their format to be managed. Because in Yu-Gi-Oh, when these powerful format rotating effects come into play, there is kind of just this acceptance that that's what we're going to play now. And in Legacy, it does sometimes feel...
To a degree. If we're using Habakiri as the example, people have been wanting to kill that card for a while now.
So,
I think there's some acceptance at first, and then there's like, as it's gotten more time in the format, people start to grow unrestful about it.
Players want to be able to play the same archetypes structured in the same way forever. And that seems unrealistic in a way. Many times in Legacy's history, new cards have been printed into the format that have ultimately gotten banned relatively quickly because they've started to kind of upset the natural state of things.
Yeah, I think that's part of the deal with Habakiri is like Habakiri was felt to be fine, and then we realized just how many ways you can get to Habakiri. Habakiri is just one of the fucking most searchable cards ever printed for some fucking reason.
To a point that got too far, essentially. And I think most of those times it has been provably unhealthy, that there have been real substantial issues with the way that the format has been exists, and so it did kind of necessitate the ban of those cards. But I'm not convinced that it's always the case. One of the examples I can think of a card that got banned and I was kind of unsure how I felt about it, was Dreadhorde Arcanist. This is a 1 in a red 1/3.
Okay, I don't know this card. To be clear, I'm not a Magic expert for anyone in chat. So 1 fire, red, sorry. Trample, whenever Dreadhorde Arcanist attacks, you can cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost less than or equal to Dreadhorde Arcanist power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. This card will be put in your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Oh, that seems like you could really easily do something very stupid with it.
That when it attacks got to cast a spell for that costs equal to or less than its power from the graveyard. And the thing about this card was that it was obviously incredibly powerful with recurring cantrips, which is one of the main format identities of Legacy. And I didn't mind the card as much because I felt like it gave you a real reason to play red if you were in these blue decks. And obviously there were reasons to play red anyway, but it did not feel like especially soupy to me necessarily.
No, it doesn't really seem that strong.
It was just a 1/3 creature that could be removed off the board.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that card did end up getting the axe for being too efficient of a grinding engine, but it is sort of a situation in my mind where people just also decided that they didn't like playing those kinds of games anymore, and that the uproar around that was ultimately eventually a problem. I don't remember exactly what the play rate data was like, and maybe I am just looking back at this with rose-colored glasses because I liked the play patterns of Dreadhorde Arcanist in a lot of ways, and maybe...
Well, yeah, that's like the thing with Yu-Gi-Oh though, right? Like, if you leave the format the way it is for so long, people start to, with the new cards that have pushed out the cards that people were playing, then people start to get antsy about it and want to call for the removal. It
was a situation where like 50% of all decks and challenges were Arcanist decks, and obviously, if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments, and I, you know, I'll definitely apologize. But my recollection of that card is not nearly as negative as I think it might be for some other people. And I think a lot of what this comes down to is communication and the way that the format is being managed. In Yu-Gi-Oh, there is no communication. They just tell you when the new cards are legal and they tell you when the ban lists come out. And that's fine. Players have clearly accepted that that's the framework in which they are operating for playing their game. But in Magic, there is this weird kind of expectation, I guess, that Wizards is going to communicate about the way the format is being managed and the view that they have on how the format...
To be fair, when every time Konami tries to communicate, we yell at them. So maybe it's for the best that they don't communicate. I don't know.
And there is sometimes, I think, a real disconnect between the way that those articles and kind of communications are written and the way that the actual community feels about the format. Gavin from Distraction Makers made a video about Fantasticar as well a couple of days ago at this point.
The Fantasticar situation is wild. Genesis is the only communication we get, and we don't even get Genesis communication anymore. I was literally thinking about this the other day. Like, if you go to the Genesis if you go to the Genesis sorry, it's under maintenance. If you go to the Genesis blog, it's under maintenance. What a timing. What timing. Thank you. Yesterday's cards, today's communication. More like yesterday's communication, today's cards. What the fuck, dude? Had to be right now, it's under maintenance. Awesome. Holy shit, dude. But if you just have to trust me on this, then if you go to the blog, all the posts recently have just been points updates. They haven't been really giving us anything other than points updates for a while. Now, they do tell us why they're hitting points. They're doing points now, which is awesome. And what they were doing for a while was really fucking annoying, where they would be like, here's the things we're thinking about, and then they'd give the points list without justification for the points. So you just have to like connect the dots on what they're hitting and why. What I like now is they're very specific about what they're hitting and why now. in the same blog post together, which is nice. But all the, like they did a card a deck not profile, but like spotlight is what they call it. They did a deck spotlight on Blue Eyes White Dragon. So like here's what you can do with Blue Eyes in Genesis format. And they titled it like they're going to do a series of these. And then they never did one again. Never again. They never touched it ever again. It was so weird. Anyways, it's still more than Advanced gets. To be clear, still much more than Advanced gets. But
screen, we'll kind of be looking at it. He made a bunch of other really good points about kind of like the design approach of Fantastic Art, the design approach that Magic has taken as a whole. And as you can see, I made a comment on this video because I thought it was a very interesting video. And one of the things that I pointed out is that
that's awesome.
The Legacy format has for a long time been treated with this kind of approach of Eternal formats are slow moving. Our expectation is that Legacy will be slow moving and that the metagame can adapt to powerful cards because there are powerful engines and answers in the format. And the problem is they continue to maintain this as a format philosophy while at the same time pumping cards into the format at an incredibly high rate. And
that's the other thing is that like Magic the Gathering's printing schedule has just gone off the fucking rails. Like MTG's, can I just get a list of MTG sets? All sets, thank you. Let's go back a little bit. Let's say 2020. Let's look at 2020. So we get, if we started 2020, we got the Judge gift card, sure. Theros Beyond Death, Unsanctioned, sure. Commander 2020, a historic anthology. I don't know if that's anything. It's a cube. Core Set 2021, Jumpstart, Double Masters, Amonkhet Remastered, Zendikar Rising, that's a big set. Kaladesh Remastered, Commander Collection, Grander Legends. Okay, sure. Let's look at 2026. Not even over yet, by the way. 2026 not over yet. Lorwyn, Eclipsed, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Secrets of Strixhaven, Marvel Superheroes, Hobbit, Reality Fracture. That's coming soon. Star Trek. Actually, it feels like less, but it when I say it like that, but there was just like a lot of side things going on. And yeah, it was like worse 2025. Like you look at 2025, and there's just like Innistrad, Aether Drift, Tarkir, Final Fantasy, Edge of Eternities, Marvel Universe, little secrets, fucking secret layer, I think. Marvel Spider-Man, Avatar. They shoved so much into 2025. And it's too much. And they don't have the rate at which they're doing it, it means they don't have time. Like, instead of doing all these side sets, they're doing full sets. Like, they were doing side sets in 2020. A lot of those we were talking about were side sets. Now they're doing full sets all the time. So you don't have time to, like, enjoy sets, for one. But also the designers don't have time to design sets the way they once did. So every set now has a much more truncated design period, which makes it harder to make the set as well crafted as before.
Also, they're putting cards into the Legacy format and the Vintage format as well that are not really tested for 1v1 Magic, which is another problem, right? Fantastic Car is a Commander card, and it comes from a Commander deck. And I can guarantee you that because that's...
Oh yeah, there's that too. The
environment...
Like, oh my god, yeah, no, that's exactly what Fantastic Car is. It's just they didn't test it for single play. Because Fantastic Car in 4-play in Commander, it can knock one person out, but not everyone else. And then they have time to respond to you. Oh, wow.
In which it was designed in, it was not tested with 1v1 Magic in mind to nearly the level
that's exactly what it
want
is.
It to be for something like the Legacy format. And that's not necessarily a problem. There are issues with resources. You can only test so much stuff. Wizards has insisted on this like really aggressive release schedule. And if you're going to go with that really aggressive,
I should have just kept playing the video. You could have explained this
schedule,
for me.
you are inherently going to have to give up some amount of quality assurance.
That's the thing with LC videos.
I don't know.
Every time I press pause to say something, he just says it after I press play again.
And as a result, I think that you are seeing cards designed for Commander ending up in Legacy and causing massive problems. The Initiative is another great example of this. Not a mechanic that I think was tested for 1v1 formats, and it has had a bunch of really negative implications in Legacy, and Pauper as well had some issues with the Initiative, let's just say. And I think that you can look at the way in which communication is being done in other games and for other formats as kind of a nod to how ideally this would happen. I think recently the Riftbound, one of the head designers at Riftbound, tweeted out basically announcing that they were going to ban a card in an upcoming ban announcement. Like, the ban announcement's not yet out yet, but he tweeted
the announcement of the announcement
really early on in the spoiler season for Riftbound's newest set, Vendetta, basically to communicate that they were going to make a ban change, and the change makes a lot of sense. Essentially, Vendetta is the first set that's going to put a purple and yellow leader in the same legend, meaning that you can actually play purple and yellow cards at the same time. And actually, as early as set 2, there was a 3-card infinite in Riftbound that you just literally couldn't play because purple and yellow were not 2 colors you could play together. And they communicated very effectively. And the developer was essentially like, hey, we're going to ban this card out of the combo, and we don't mind that infinite combos might exist in the game. They're not always going to be banned. But in this case, this one was not tested to the level that we're comfortable with, so we're just banning it before it even comes out. And I think that kind of communication and that kind of like admitting when you miss is, I think, what people are really like hoping for, especially from the Legacy format. There just has to be some amount of willingness to say, yes, we acknowledge that this card is going to be really powerful. And even though I don't think that they necessarily needed to do something like pre-ban the card, there needed to at least be some amount of communication of, hey, this might be too good. It wasn't tested with Legacy in mind. But you'll just never get that kind of communication. And instead, we're probably going to live in a world where the Fantastic Car is legal for months, I would guess, before any kind of balance change is made to it. And realistically, I don't know if it even will get banned. Obviously, I don't have access to the same metagame data, play rate data that Riftbound typically uses, or not Riftbound, sorry, that WotC typically uses to make decisions around bans. They clearly had enough data to action the colorless Tron deck that popped up right after they banned Undercity Informer. Side note, I don't know that I'll include the clip here, but I made a video about that ban list, and I said that I thought that banning Undercity Informer while this colorless Tron deck was rising up, and I said that I thought that was a really bad idea, and that Tron would take over because you were removing its natural predator from the format, while it was also clearly ascending in power level. And then who would have guessed?
That's funny.
It got to a metagame state where it needed to be actioned. I would have guessed. It was me. I would have guessed that it needed to happen. But they did, in that same communication where they made ban changes to the colorless Tron deck, say that Fantastic Car was something that was on their radar and that they were going to be looking at it, which is fine. I don't think that that's like no communication. But when these changes are ultimately made, a lot of the dialogue around it tends to feel very corporate and tends to not really engage with, here's what we have the vision of the format looking like, and here's why we're making this change. It's always just related to play rate data, win rate data,
I hate play rate data,
and not necessarily related to, the state of the format as a whole. And I think ultimately that's the thing that frustrates me the most, because if the Fantastic Car does get banned, and maybe it will deserve to be banned, I think that it will be done, it will happen simply based on like play rate and win rate of the decks. And for me, I kind of think that this might just be a natural, reasonable rotation for the combo decks in Legacy. Like, I don't know that I necessarily view it as this really awful thing that now all of a sudden we have all these card decks. I think the worst thing about it by far is that because the Fantastic Car is a card that only comes in a commander deck that you need 4 of in most of these combo decks.
Oh God, I didn't think about that. Oh no!
Like, I think a playset is like $150 US. That's not great. And you would hope that if they do ultimately decide that it is going to stay in the format, that they find some kind of way to reprint it so that it's more accessible for players. But in terms of its actual efficacy in the format, it is obviously very strong. It's the new thing. But at the same time, I've at least felt recently like a lot of the combo decks in the Legacy format have felt really underwhelming. I think things like Sneak and Show and Reanimator have kind of like dominated the metagame, and decks like Storm have really not felt super playable in a lot of ways. And to me, having a card like the Fantastic Card being the thing that a lot of your combo decks are operating towards just doesn't feel like it's necessarily that bad. It is a 3-mana artifact at the end of the day, so it requires a reasonable amount of setup cost. You can destroy it, like you can stifle the trigger. There's a bunch of ways to interact with what the Fantastic Card is doing. It also just only attacks for 16. Like it does not on its own win the game right away. And
No, you have to have something else.
It explodes into 4 cards. It's pretty challenging to remove, but you're even seeing people play like decks with more terminuses. Blue-white is making more of a resurgence into the metagame because you have access to ways to remove all of the cards once they're put in play. And I guess just for me, I'm not 100% sold on the Fantastic Card being really negative. It clearly is a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and I think a lot of the frustration is because it's doing some of the things that new Yu-Gi-Oh cards do that frustrate some of the people in that community as well. It will functionally rotate out certain decks or certain constructions of certain decks, and it does have a decided issue of having accessibility problems. And that is also something I didn't really mention it, but that's something that you see with new Yu-Gi-Oh cards sometimes, is that they get jammed at really high rarities despite being cards that like almost every deck is going to need to play 3 of, meaning that the price ends up at a really like kind of obscene level. And that is less deliberate here, I think, that it is with Yu-Gi-Oh, but that's also another way in which this card is Yu-Gi-Oh-esque. So yeah, I mean, that's mostly what I have for today. I don't want to do too much more. I feel like this has already started to get a little bit rambly, but I just wanted to talk a bit about the Fantastic Card. And I initially wrote this video to talk about like how broken it is and how incredibly powerful it is. And then I played a couple of leagues with it. I watched some content with it. You know, I went and looked at deck lists. I went and looked at results, and I guess I'm just not sold on this idea that the Fantastic Card is this incredibly impressive piece that needs to go in Legacy.
But have you considered that it is also the Fantastic Four's car in Magic the Gathering? Have you considered that part? Have you considered that it is also the Fantastic Four's car? Have you considered that it's the Fantastic Four's card? It shouldn't be in Legacy.
Vintage, I think it is a
you can say that
discussion.
all Universe Beyond, though.
The 0-mana artifacts that I mentioned that are super present in Legacy are even more present in Vintage, obviously, because of the Moxen and things of that ilk. And yeah, probably in that format, I would be surprised if the Fantastic Card stays legal at 4 for a long time. But fortunately,
but if they have to make it legal at 4 though, because it's the Fantastic Four card and it does 4/4/4/4.
Vintage has a slightly less aggressive tool to limit these kinds of things, and they might well just limit Fantastic Card to 1, and then I think you might just see that it's fine in that format, would be my guess at 1. Pretty unlikely to me that it goes all the way to 0. But yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got on Fantastic Art today. I really
if it was like limited, if it was at 1, it'd be like
video,
nothing.
I hope you will
right?
subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And I want to say a big thank you to my Patreon.
LC, always a good watch. Always a good watch, LC. Wonder what the comments are saying. All roads lead to Habakiri. True. True. Fantastic 4 card. Everything about it is 4-coded. Mana cost is 3. That's true. Wait, why is it mana cost 3? It should be 4. Wait, what the fuck? Oh my god. Johnny doesn't need a seat. Oh, true. Yeah, he just rides alongside it. What the fuck? What the fuck? Alrighty. What the fuck are these prices? It's Legacy. It's the reserved list killing you. Alrighty, I think I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Exclamation point socials in chat will get you everywhere that I'm at. Don't forget, of course, to subscribe to the various channels. Batchy's Library for clips and reacts to Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. The main channel, Thempire Ian, for video essays. I got a new one coming soon. I'm working on the edit on it right now, or not right literally now, but I'll be working on it today at some point. Tomb of the Empire Ian's the VOD channel, all that stuff. You can all find it there, thempireian.neocities.org, at the website. All the places, you can find me right there. All right, let's see where I'm sending you. I'm not sending you to the person who made the 24-hour branded guide. What if I send you to Maple? Maple's playing retro. Let's send you to Maple. Have a nice time over there. When you get over there, be kind. Oh, it's Shovel Knight. It's Shovel Knight. You love Shovel Knight. You like Shovel Knight. You love Shovel Knight. I know you do. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice. When you get over there, be kind and courteous. I'll ask you. With that said, be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.